Good afternoon, gang. Happy Wednesday. It is Wellness Wednesday, let's say. I wanted to jump on and just do a live video answering all your questions about carb cycling. Yes, my name is Amanda Nybert. I'm a registered dietitian with a passion for health and wellness, and my goal is to help you get back on track with your health and wellness. So I posed the question a couple of days ago to all of my followers, asking them, what kind of questions do you have about carb cycling? Carb cycling is a nutritional strategy that is really helpful in allowing people to create sustainable lifestyle change. And if you guys follow me, you know I am all about the sustainable lifestyle change. If you feel like that you are currently doing something that you don't feel like you could do forever, well, it ain't gonna work. Most likely, you're gonna end up regaining all the weight or going back into those old unhealthy habits. So one of the things that I really focus on in Lean, Living Energized and Nourished, is empowering my clients to find sustainable ways to see weight loss. And carb cycling is just one of the many things that we do. Here's the deal. We know that insulin is one of the number one fat storing hormones in the body. And we know that regulating your insulin is a really powerful tool to help you lose weight. When insulin is high, the body is storing fat. When insulin is low, the body is burning fat. This is, information, science that, is relatively new. Back in 1977, it was all about calories in versus calories out. It was all about fat. Fat is bad for you. And now we know that there's this really kind of complex system in the body that happens. So once this science came out, there was a flood of information about low carb diets and how low carb eating is the way to go. And that's going to create the most weight loss. And absolutely, people that are able to really control their carbohydrates, especially really low carb diet, say like 20, 30 grams a day, see incredible weight loss. You've done it. I know. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a heart if you've done a low carb diet, lost a ton of weight. But the problem is that it's not sustainable. If you're like me, you like margaritas, chips, and salsa. And so, living a low carb lifestyle just doesn't work for most people. And that's where carb cycling can be a way better option. So it's very simple. There's no one right way to carb cycle. I'm going to answer your questions, but basically it's a combination of low carb days. Low carb days could be 20 net carbs or less. It could be 20 regular carbs or less. It could be 30. It could be 50 net carbs or less. It could be 75 carbs or less, 100 carbs or less. In my opinion, anything below 100 is considered a low carb day, paired with more robust carb days. I call them regular carb days, okay? And what I love about carb cycling first and foremost is that right now, people are so scared of carbohydrates. Like, you think the only way that you can see success is by completely eliminating them from your diet. And you do that, you see results, and then you have a bad weekend and the scale goes up. And what people don't realize is like what an adequate amount of carbohydrates is. When I tell people, like I was on the phone today with a potential client, and I was like, listen, you get to eat 150 carbs. You get to eat 200 carbs on a regular carb day and still lose weight. And they're like, no way. There's no way I can eat that many carbs and lose weight. And I'm like, yes way. Okay. The average American consumes 400 to 500 carbs a day. That's a high carb diet. Okay. That's problematic. That's why we have rampant obesity in the United States, is because of the overconsumption of carbohydrates. 150 to 200 carbs is not that much. So basically, we alternate between low carb and regular carb days. Now, you could do one low carb day a week. You could do 2 low carb days a week. You could do 3 low carb days a week. You could do 4 low carb days a week. It's totally up to you. Do you have to do them, back to back? You don't have to. I find that it's more successful. You see better results if you pair your low carb days together versus spreading them out. But again, there's no one right way to carb cycle. Okay, so let's go through your questions. Is there a magic number for a low carb day? Not necessarily, okay? I mean, basically the goal is to limit that insulin response. So if you're eating 3 meals a day and say you're consuming 25 to 30 grams of carbs at each meal with adequate protein and fat at each meal, then 90 grams of carbs a day is considered low carb. Your insulin response is going to be very little. Now, if you're eating like one meal a day and you eat 90 carbs, that insulin response is going to be much greater. So I think a low carb day is well defined by somewhere between 20 to anything under 100 grams of carbs a day. Find what works for you. If you feel miserable at 30, 40, 50 net carbs a day, regular carbs a day, then do 75. Sometimes it can make the biggest difference. So in my opinion, 100 or less is considered a low carb day. Is it best to do regular carb days or low carb days following a 24-hour fast? Now, this is definitely a lean client. Again, we do incorporate intermittent fasting. We do an extended fast once a week. There is no one right way to eat the day after an extended fast. It's up to you. It's really what your body requires, how you feel best fueled coming out of a 24-hour fast. So with regards to weight loss results, it's not going to matter if you do a refuel day, like a regular carb day, or if you roll right into a low carb day. I love this question from Sarah. Carb cycling seems overwhelming. What happens if I just do regular carb day every day? Sarah, you see amazing results. And I tell this to my clients all the time. Wednesdays and Thursdays are our traditional low carb days. And I'll have clients, eat 110 carbs and they're like, I blew it. I had a horrible day. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Any day that's a regular carb day is a good day. So always remember that. I mean, carb cycling is just one small strategy. Macro management in terms of eating balanced macros every single day is another great strategy. So never beat yourself up when you are well managing your macros. I love that question. So any day that's a regular carb day is a good day. What are the benefits of carb cycling? Again, I think the benefits are sustainability. I love to incorporate low carb days throughout the week when eating healthy is a little bit more effortless for me, and pair them with regular carb days on the weekends when I'm more social, I'm out drinking, I'm eating chips and salsa, I'm enjoying birthday cake, I'm more celebrations and lakes and baseball tournaments and things like that. So again, I think the main benefit of carb cycling is the sustainability. Now, remember, anytime you're reducing carbohydrates, you're allowing your body to tap into the fat stores a lot easier. So again, low insulin levels, low carbohydrates, you're gonna burn stored fat a lot easier. Carbohydrates are the body's preferred energy source. If they're available, the body's going to break it down. So once those carbohydrates are in less supply, the body has to seek energy elsewhere, and that's in our stored fat. And that's a good thing if you're looking for weight loss. How often should you mix up the carb cycling pattern? It's totally up to you. There's no, again, one right way to, navigate your carbs. In terms of this cycle. So for example, when I go on vacation, I'm not carb cycling. I'm focused on regular carb days, every day. And, when I get back in, I may add more low carb days in order to kind of reset and get back on track. So it's really what works best for you. Let's see, how many grams is considered a low carb day versus a regular carb day? So we answered that. Regular carb day, I always tell my lean clients, you want to get at least 100 to 120 carbs on a regular carb day to really benefit from the carb cycling. The whole goal is to stop fearing healthy carbs, okay? And recognize that you can incorporate 150, 200 carbs and still see results. That's why I really encourage my clients to eat variety on their regular carb days. High carbs include fruit. So fruit is like a tricky food group. I always say fruit is God's candy. A lot of people will shift to eating a low carb or a healthy diet, and they will remove all processed sugar and they'll load up on a ton of fruit. Now, while fruit is always a better choice than processed sugar because it is loaded in vitamins and minerals and fiber and antioxidants, in the long run, with regards to insulin control, with regards to weight loss, it can be problematic. So I always say limit fruit to once or twice a day and stick with the Aries, the berries, the strawberries, the blackberries, the blueberries, the cherries. Those tend to be the highest in antioxidant count, meaning the most nutrition, the biggest vitamin and minerals for your bang for your buck, and the lowest glycemic response. So glycemic response is how we measure the amount of blood sugar response based on the food that you eat. So those are always really good choices. Okay, let's see here. I'm in maintenance mode. Should I carb cycle? That's a great question. Again, for me, carb cycling helps me maintain my weight a lot easier. I tend to be more relaxed on the weekends. Maybe I'm not quite getting 150 to 200 carbs. Maybe I'm getting 250 to 300 carbs on the weekend. So the fact that I'm incorporating a couple of low carb days throughout the week, I think helps me offset those weekends. So while maintenance mode does not require carb cycling, I think it's a good strategy, to kind of keep in your arsenal. Remember, I always say whatever you do to lose the weight is what you need to do to keep it off. So most of the strategies that we implement for weight loss are the same strategies we implement for maintenance and just overall health. All right, why just 2 low carb days a week? Would implementing more low carb days increase results? So in the lean program, we actually do 2 to 4 low carb days a week. And here's the deal, I feel like Lean, Living, Energized, and Nourished is kind of an entry level program. A lot of people are coming into this program with very little nutritional awareness, nutritional knowledge. And so a lot of people struggle on low carb days. Their energy is problematic. Maybe they're on medications that make low carb days really difficult. Their body's really sugar burners, so they're really used to fueling on carbs and sugars versus fat, which takes time to convert to from a sugar burner to a fat burner. And so in my experience, if I were to throw in 4 low carb days all at once, people would give up. They would feel not good. And so they would be more likely to give up than having those kind of refuel days. So again, I think you can have up to 4 low carb days a week with 3 regular carb days. And that's probably the most I would do. Okay. So 4 to 3 is what I would do most, but even just 2 low carb days a week is a great option. Okay. Anything is better than nothing. I always say that. Are carb cycling macros the same for those that are vegan? This is a really great question. I work with a lot of vegans in the lean program. We have a vegan 6-week meal plan. We have vegan protein options. It is possible, but low carb days are hard for vegans because animal protein has 0 carbs. Okay. You can eat chicken and fish and beef and pork and turkey, and they have basically like 0 carbs, but vegan protein, plant-based proteins are typically very high in carbohydrates. And here's what I see with vegans across the board is that typically when I work with someone who is vegetarian, plant-based, pescatarian, whatever, ultimately they're not getting enough protein. They're getting way too many carbohydrates and they're not getting enough protein. And it is the off balance of their macronutrients that are creating poor results. Here they are eating like the healthiest food possible. Now, you can be a really unhealthy vegan because, Cheetos are vegan. My son wants to be a vegan and just live on Cheetos, things like that. So, but the healthy vegans, they're eating all this healthy food, but they're not seeing weight loss response because their macros are out of balance. So typically the low carb days are the same for vegans. We modify if you need to. And we focus on low carb plant-based proteins like edamame, which is super low carb, which is, the soy bean, hemp hearts. If you're a vegan and you're not loading up on hemp hearts, you are missing out on the boat. Great source of protein, great source of fiber, low carb. So those are great. Tofu, tempeh, stuff like that tends to be lower in carbohydrates. And then we do all the beans and the chickpeas and the, garbanzo beans and things like that, quinoa on our regular carb days. So there tends to be lots of variety there. Okay, emphasize myth of needing protein and carbs immediately after workout. Maybe explain more. Okay, so here's the deal. I think that you have to determine what your fitness goals are, okay? If you are a bodybuilder, if you are looking to train for fitness competitions, you want to be, I don't know, a physique, in physique shows and things like that, your protein timing is probably far more critical than if weight loss is your goal, okay? Because when we're looking at weight loss, we're looking to sustain muscle mass and put on muscle mass, but we're not looking to like bulk up, okay? We're not in the gym for 3 to 4 hours a day, lifting heavy 3 to 4 hours a day. So your needs are different. You don't necessarily, if you go do, a 30-minute HIIT workout or 45-minute HIIT workout, it is less critical for you to consume protein within 30 minutes of the workout. Most likely the protein you had at dinner is gonna, fuel you appropriately for that protein, that workout in the morning. All right. So keep that in mind. I think my client for weight loss and overall health and wellness, this whole notion of, fueling right after a workout is just not as necessary as it is for someone who has more elevated fitness and physique goals. So think about what your goals are. Let's see here. Okay, couple more questions. Oh, no questions, but the trickiest part for me is counting net carbs on low carb days versus all carbs. So I've actually mentioned net carbs a couple of times in this video. And so in lean, we do track net carbs. So net carbs are total carbs minus fiber, also minus sugar alcohols if listed. Okay, so sugar alcohols are very similar to like Splenda, Sweet and Low and Equal, but studies show that they don't cause an insulin response. They don't cause your blood sugar to rise, therefore they don't cause an insulin response, therefore you don't store fat. Okay, now the reason why we subtract fiber on a low carb day is this, because fiber is so important. And I don't want my clients sacrificing fiber intake in order to reduce their carbohydrates. Fiber fills you up, it keeps you full, it helps you lose weight. Fiber reduces glucose response. So for example, if you eat a meal that's all sugar with no fiber, your blood sugar spikes really high. But if you eat a meal with maybe the same amount of sugar with a bunch of fiber, your blood sugar doesn't rise as much. So fiber is very beneficial. We don't want it to count against you. So when we only allow 20 grams of carbs, 30 grams of carbs, 50 grams of carbs, I want you to be able to subtract out that fiber. I personally aim from anywhere from 30 to 50 grams of fiber. If I was restricted to eat 50 carbs a day, there's no way I would be able to achieve my goal of 50 grams of fiber a day. But since I get to eat 50 net carbs, I actually consume probably 100 carbs, but 50 of them are from my fiber. And that's a good thing. So that's why we focus on net carbs, but only on low carb days. All right. So that's the catcher. And again, it's different for everybody, but on regular carb days, we just count carbohydrates, because when you're talking about 150, 200, 250 carbs, it kind of all counts. All right. So you want to find that balance at each meal. So the fiber is important. All right. You don't subtract it because it still counts when you're eating, 30, 40, 50 grams per meal. Now you need that fiber to really bring that net down at the mealtime. So we focus on net carbs on our low carb days. All right, let's see I think that's basically it. Why do we not count fiber? How do you not overeat all the carbs on a low carb day? So typically on a low carb day, let me know if you have any questions. We got a bunch of people watching right now, so I'll scroll through and answer any questions that you may have. But also jump in the chat feature and tell me where you're from. I'd love to hear that. But low carb days are mainly protein and vegetables. All right. And I encourage my clients, I say, listen, sit down and make a list of your favorite 10 low carb meals, or make a list of your favorite 10 dinners, 10 lunches, and then say, okay, well, this one's not low carb and this one is low carb. I like to start with 10 low carb meals because it's really easy to add carbohydrates. Like, for example, tacos are a really low carb meal. Taco salad is a really low carb meal. If it's a regular carb day, I just add beans and rice and corn chips, okay? Chicken stir fry is a really low carb meal. If it's a regular carb day, I just add rice to it. Breakfast for dinner, Brenner, is a great low carb meal. Eggs and bacon and omelets and frittatas. If it's a regular carb day, I make, a breakfast sandwich on gluten-free toast. Or, I'll make a quiche with a gluten-free crust or something. I personally aim to limit gluten 80% of my diet. So again, it's a little adding and subtracting. If it's a regular carb day, I'm going to eat a big sandwich on some gluten-free bread. If it's a low carb day, I'm going to eat an unwich. I'm going to eat a burger wrapped in lettuce. I'm going to eat, chicken and broccoli. I'm going to eat steak and asparagus. If it's a regular carb day, I'm going to eat steak, asparagus, and a sweet potato. So don't overthink it. So in order to keep your carbs low, you're going to want to focus on protein and vegetables. Okay, let me see if you guys have any questions before I wrap that up. I hope that helps answer a majority of the questions that you have. I'm just going to look and make sure that I answered them all for you. Love lean and carb cycling. Yay, Karen. I love hearing that. Lean makes so much sense. I love that. What if I'm only getting 20 to 30 carbs per day on a regular carb day? Is that bad? Well, it's not bad, but you're not carb cycling. You're basically eating a low carb diet. And Amanda, if you feel like you can sustain a low carb diet for the rest of your life, I encourage you to do so. If you feel like you're eventually not going to succeed eating low carb every day, then I would try to find ways to incorporate, those really robust, healthy carbs like sweet potatoes and rice and quinoa and fruit. Paula says, yes, I love having weekends as regular carb days. Me too, Paula. I'm all over that. Ooh, Phoenix, Arkansas, Charlotte, Madison, Iowa, Washington State. Ooh, gosh, all of you guys from the West Coast. I hope you guys are faring well. I want to get out there for sure. Do you recommend carb cycling for someone going through fertility treatments? I think that everyone's different. I think focusing on whole food nutrition, a lot of people have trouble getting pregnant due to their weight. And sometimes weight loss makes you fertile myrtle. Now, fertility is always across the board. So I think that if that is an issue of fertility for you, then losing weight, carb cycling would be a great option. I think focusing on whole food nutrition, macro balance is probably the best approach for anyone going through fertility treatment or trying to get pregnant. But definitely there are lots of people living a low carb lifestyle, getting pregnant and having babies. Oh, California, Georgia just started the program. What are your favorite sources of fiber? Oh, I love this question. So I love seeds. I love chia seeds. I love flax seeds. I obviously vegetables. I eat a ton of veggies. Usually the heartier they are, the more protein the more fiber they are. I love Pro Granola is a great source of fiber. I use my Arbonne Fiber Boost every single day. You can find that link in my bio. That gives me 20 or 15 to 20 grams of protein a day. Those are the easiest way. Hemp hearts are good sources of fiber. Good ways to get in your fiber. Variety is key. Week 4, it's working for me. Oh, I love to hear that. I've heard topical fiber add-ins that you find in the store or pharmacy are made with poor ingredients. Is that true? I think that they vary, across the board in terms of the quality of the product that you're eating. You shouldn't rely on add-ins to make up your entire fiber source. Again, I'm probably eating about 30 grams of fiber a day, which for the average American, you want to aim for 20 to 30 grams, 30 to 40 grams a day. 30 is probably ideal. It's hard. It is really hard to get 30 grams of fiber in. Track and try. Give me a thumbs up, give me a heart if you agree with that. So typically I'm eating about 30 grams of fiber and then I'm supplementing to get that extra. So yeah, look for one with the highest quality ingredients. Raleigh, Illinois, are baked potatoes okay? Or should we just stick with sweet? I love baked potatoes. Yeah, I love all potatoes. I love all food. I think it's important to recognize that there's a place for all food. All right, there's a time and place. I love pudding mix with artificial sweeteners in it. And I love to make an angel food cake with Cool Whip and all the chemical crap because that's from my childhood and I remember that. But I'm not going to make that all the time. Okay. So it's all about balance. It's all about, that 80-20. It's really the lifestyle in which you lead. So, no food groups are off the table. It's really what you do 80% of the time, 90% of the time. It's going to make up your overall health. Nobody's perfect. Like, even if they say they're perfect, they ain't perfect. Trust me. Oh, North Dakota. I love it. All right, guys. Well, let me know. I'm going to post this on my main feed. If you still have questions about, the controversial trifle. I know, Sally. It was very controversial. If you still have questions about carb cycling, I am here to help you. It is just such a simple nutritional strategy to implement. You can do it on your own. Throw in a couple of low carb days throughout your week. Balance them out with regular carb days throughout your weekend and see what kind of success you see. Guys, I have a brand new session of lean actually starting on Monday. So if you're in a session, share this with your friends so they understand more about carb cycling. Share your referral code so they can get that $10 discount. And if you have questions about lean and getting started, elevating your health, now is the time to jump in. I keep saying this over and over. We have about 6 to 8 weeks before the holiday madness. So if you are sitting in this space right now thinking that you are not happy with your health and wellness, now is the time to address it. Because I promise you, 6 weeks from now, you ain't going to be able to address it, okay? We're just going to be living on sweet potato casserole, holly, juleps, and all the Christmas candy. So start now. Yay! Patty says she's starting on Monday. I cannot wait. All right, guys, love you. Tune in next week for our new Wellness Wednesday, whatever we got going on. I'll pose a new question and answer it for you. Talk to you soon. Bye.